The stars above the human colony of Epsilon 9 burned cold and distant, their light barely piercing the thick atmosphere of the remote outpost. Commander Yarrick Voss stood on the observation deck of the colony's central hub, his sharp blue eyes scanning the horizon. The colony was a small, self-sustaining settlement on the edge of human-controlled space, a place where few ventured and even fewer stayed. Yarrick was one of the exceptions. A veteran of countless missions, he had been sent to Epsilon 9 to oversee its security after a series of strange signals had been detected in the area. The comms unit on his wrist buzzed, breaking the silence. "Commander, we've got something," came the voice of Lieutenant Mira Khan, his second-in-command. "A ship just crashed about 20 clicks north of here. It's not one of ours." Jarek's brow furrowed. "Any survivors?" "Unknown," Mira replied. "But the energy signature is unusual. It doesn't match anything in our database." Yarrick was already moving. "Assemble a team. We're going to check it out." The journey to the crash site was tense. The terrain was rugged, the air thick with the scent of sulfur from the nearby volcanic vents. As they approached, Yarrick could see the wreckage of the ship scattered across the landscape. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, sleek, organic in design, with a metallic sheen that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. "Spread out," Yarrick ordered. "Stay sharp." As they moved closer, a faint sound reached his ears, a soft, almost musical hum. He followed it, his hand resting on the hilt of his plasma pistol. The sound led him to a partially intact section of the ship, where he found her. She was tall, her skin a deep shade of violet, with intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly. Her eyes, large and luminous, locked onto his with an intensity that made him pause. She was injured, a deep gash running along her arm, but she stood with a grace that belied her condition. "Who are you?" Yarrick asked, his voice steady but cautious. "My name is Tara," she replied, her voice soft but firm. "I need your help." Yarrick studied her for a moment. "What happened?" "I was fleeing," she said, her gaze darting to the sky. "They're coming for me. If they find me, they'll kill us all." "Who's coming?" Tara hesitated, then stepped closer. "A warlord. His name is Korax. He's been hunting me for cycles. I carry something he wants, something that could change everything." Jarek's mind raced. This was more than just a crash landing. This was the beginning of something much bigger. "What is it?" Tara reached into the folds of her garment and pulled out a small, crystalline device. It pulsed with a soft, golden light, casting strange shadows on the ground. "This," she said, "is the key to a power that could save or destroy the galaxy. And if Korax gets his hands on it, he will not stop until he has conquered everything in his path." Yarrick exhaled slowly. This was far beyond his pay grade. But as he looked into Tara's eyes, he knew he couldn't just walk away. "All right," he said. "Let's get you out of here." As they made their way back to the colony, Yarrick couldn't shake the feeling that their lives were about to change forever. The stars above seemed to burn a little brighter, as if watching, waiting. The galaxy was vast, and its secrets were many. But one thing was certain, the arrival of Tara was just the beginning. The hidden outpost was a relic of a bygone era, its corridors dimly lit and filled with the faint hum of ancient machinery. Yarrick led the way, his boots echoing against the metal floor as the small group of survivors followed closely behind. The outpost was cramped, its systems barely functional, but it was their only refuge for now. Tara moved silently beside him, her violet skin glowing faintly in the low light. She had been quiet since their arrival, her gaze distant, as if lost in thought. Yarrick could tell she was carrying the weight of something far greater than the immediate danger they faced. "This place is a dump," Lieutenant Mira muttered, her voice tinged with frustration. "How are we supposed to hold out here?" "It's better than being dead," Yarrick replied, his tone sharp. "We'll make it work." They reached the central control room, a small chamber filled with outdated consoles and flickering holographic displays. Yarrick activated the main terminal, the screen sputtering to life with a series of static-filled images. "All right," he said, turning to the group. "We need to assess our situation. Mira, get a team together and check the outpost's defenses. We don't know how long we have before Corax finds us." Mira nodded and hurried off, leaving Yarrick alone with Tara. He turned to her, his expression serious. "We need to talk." Tara met his gaze, her luminous eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and determination. "I know," she said quietly. "I should have told you everything sooner." "You think?" Yarrick snapped, his frustration boiling over. "You've been holding back critical information since the moment we met. If we're going to survive this, I need to know what we're up against." Tara hesitated, then nodded. "You're right. I've been cautious. But I can't afford to be anymore." She reached into her garment and pulled out the crystalline device, its golden light casting strange shadows on the walls. "This," she said, "is the key to an ancient technology known as the Nexus. It's a power source unlike anything in the galaxy, capable of fueling entire civilizations, or destroying them." Yarrick's eyes narrowed. "And Corax wants it." "Yes," Tara confirmed. "But he doesn't understand its true potential. The Nexus is more than just a weapon. It's a gateway, a connection to something far greater. If Corax gains control of it, he won't just conquer the galaxy. He'll unravel it." Yarrick exhaled slowly, the weight of her words settling over him. "So what's the plan? How do we stop him?" Tara's expression hardened. "We need to reach the Nexus before he does. It's hidden in a place called the Void Spire, an ancient structure deep within uncharted space. But getting there won't be easy. Corax will stop at nothing to prevent us from reaching it." Yarrick ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. "All right. But we can't do this alone. We need allies." Tara nodded. "There's a faction of my people who have been resisting Corax's rule. They're scattered, but if we can reach them, they might be willing to help." Yarrick considered this for a moment, then nodded. "All right. We'll make contact. But we need to move fast. Corax won't wait for us to get our act together." As they worked to establish communication with Tara's rebel faction, the outpost systems began to stabilize. Mira returned with a report on their defenses, which were minimal but better than nothing. The group was small, but they were determined, a mix of soldiers, engineers, and civilians who had survived the attack on the colony. "We've got a problem," Mira said, her voice tense. "The outpost's power core is unstable. If we don't find a way to reinforce it, we could lose life support within the next 24 hours. Yarrick cursed under his breath. "All right. Prioritize the power core. We'll deal with Corax when he comes." As the group worked to stabilize the outpost, Yarrick couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. Corax's fleet was out there, searching for them, and every second they spent in the outpost was a risk. "We've made contact," Tara said suddenly, her voice cutting through the tension. "The rebels are willing to meet us, but they're wary. They've been betrayed before." Yarrick nodded. "We'll have to earn their trust." "Where do we meet them?" "There's a neutral zone near the edge of the system," Tara replied. "A place called the Shimmering Expanse. It's dangerous, but it's the only place where we can avoid Corax's patrols." Yarrick exhaled slowly. "All right. We'll head there as soon as the outpost is stable." The next few hours were a blur of activity. The group worked tirelessly to reinforce the outpost systems, their determination fueled by the knowledge that their survival depended on it. By the time they were ready to leave, the outpost was as secure as it could be, a fragile sanctuary in the midst of chaos. As they prepared to depart, Yarrick turned to Tara. "This is it," he said. "No turning back. Tara met his gaze, her expression resolute. I know. But we have to try. For both our peoples. Yarrick nodded, his resolve hardening. Let's go. The journey to the shimmering expanse was fraught with tension. The small ship they had commandeered from the outpost was barely spaceworthy, its systems strained to their limits. But they pressed on, driven by the hope of finding allies in their fight against Corax. As they entered the expanse, the ship's sensors picked up a faint signal, a beacon, guiding them to the meeting point. Jarek's heart raced as they approached, the weight of their mission pressing down on him. This is it, Tara said, her voice barely above a whisper. The moment of truth. Yarrick nodded, his hand tightening on the controls. Let's hope they're as desperate as we are. The ship descended into the expanse, its hull shimmering with the strange, iridescent light that gave the region its name. As they approached the beacon, a small fleet of ships came into view, an eclectic mix of vessels, each bearing the marks of Tara's rebel faction. This is Commander Yarrick Voss of the human colony Epsilon 9, Yarrick said, his voice steady as he opened a communication channel. We're here to talk. There was a long pause, then a voice crackled over the comms. This is Commander Zara of the Free Vanguard. State your business. Yarrick glanced at Tara, who nodded. We're here to form an alliance, he said. We have a common enemy, and we need your help to stop him. Another pause, then Zara's voice came through again, this time with a hint of curiosity. And what makes you think we can trust you? Tara leaned forward, her voice firm. Because I am Tara of the celestial bloodline, and I carry the key to the Nexus. If we don't stop Corax, he will destroy us all. The line went silent for a moment, then Zara's voice returned, this time with a note of determination. All right. We'll hear you out. But this had better be good. Yarrick exhaled slowly, a flicker of hope igniting within him. They had taken the first step. Now, they just had to convince the rebels to join their cause. The meeting with the Free Vanguard was tense, to say the least. Commander Zara, a tall and imposing figure with silver-streaked hair and piercing blue eyes, listened intently as Yarrick and Tara laid out their plan. The rebel leaders, a diverse group of aliens from various species, exchanged wary glances as Tara explained the significance of the Nexus and the threat posed by Corax. You're asking us to risk everything on the word of a human and a fugitive, Zara said, her voice laced with skepticism. Why should we trust you? Yarrick stepped forward, his gaze steady. Because if we don't stop Corax, none of us will survive. He's not just a threat to my people or Tara's, he's a threat to the entire galaxy. We have a chance to end this, but we can't do it alone. Tara nodded, her expression earnest. The Nexus is more than just a weapon. It's a tool that can bring peace and prosperity to all who wield it wisely. But if Corax gains control, he will use it to enslave and destroy. We can't let that happen. The room fell silent as the rebel leaders considered their words. Finally, Zara spoke. All right. We'll join your cause. But know this, if you betray us, there will be no mercy. Yarrick nodded. Understood. With the alliance formed, the group quickly set to work. The Free Vanguard's fleet was small but well-equipped, their ships modified for stealth and speed. Together, they devised a plan to infiltrate the Void Spire, the ancient structure where the Nexus was hidden. The spire is heavily guarded, Zara explained, pointing to a holographic map of the region. Corax has stationed a fleet around it, and the spire itself is protected by automated defenses. We'll need to disable the defenses and fight our way through his forces to reach the Nexus. Yarrick studied the map, his mind racing. We'll need a distraction, something to draw Corax's attention away from the spire. I can lead a decoy fleet, Zara offered. We'll engage Corax's forces on the far side of the system, giving you a window to infiltrate the spire. Yarrick nodded. All right. We'll move as soon as you're in position. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance. As the rebel fleet prepared for the mission, Yarek and Terra worked with a small team to finalize their approach. The Spire's defenses were formidable, but Terra's knowledge of ancient technology gave them an edge. The Spire's defenses are controlled by a central core, Terra explained, pointing to a schematic on the holographic display. If we can reach it, we can disable the automated systems and gain access to the Nexus. Yarek frowned. And how do we get to the core? Terra hesitated, then said, there's a hidden passage, a network of tunnels that run beneath the Spire. They're old and unstable, but they're our best chance. Yarek exhaled slowly. All right. Let's hope they're still intact. As the rebel fleet launched their diversionary attack, Yarek and Terra led their team toward the Spire. The journey was fraught with danger, the space around the Spire teeming with Corax's patrols. They moved quickly and quietly, their ship's cloaking systems masking their presence as they approached the ancient structure. The Spire loomed before them, a towering monolith of black stone and glowing runes. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a testament to the power of the civilization that had built it. As they landed on a narrow platform near the base of the Spire, Yarek couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. This is it, Terra said, her voice barely above a whisper. Once we're inside, there's no turning back. Yarek nodded, his hand tightening on his weapon. Let's move. The team entered the Spire through a hidden entrance, the air inside cold and heavy with the scent of ancient dust. The tunnels were narrow and winding, their walls lined with strange symbols that seemed to pulse faintly with light. As they moved deeper into the Spire, the sense of unease grew, the weight of the ancient structure pressing down on them. We're close, Terra said, her voice tense. The core should be just ahead. As they rounded a corner, they were met with a sight that made Jarek's blood run cold. The core chamber was massive, its walls lined with glowing crystals and intricate machinery. But standing in the center of the room was Corax himself, his tall, armored figure radiating menace. I was wondering when you'd show up, Corax said, his voice a low, menacing growl. You've caused me a great deal of trouble, Terra. But it ends here. Terra stepped forward, her expression defiant. You'll never control the Nexus, Corax. It's not meant for you. Corax laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that echoed through the chamber. You think you can stop me? You're nothing but a relic of a dying race. The Nexus will be mine, and with it, the galaxy. Yarek raised his weapon, his voice steady. We're not going to let that happen. Corax's eyes narrowed, and with a wave of his hand, a group of heavily armed guards emerged from the shadows, their weapons trained on Yarek and his team. Kill them, Corax ordered. The battle that followed was chaotic and brutal. Yarek and his team fought with everything they had, their weapons blazing as they clashed with Corax's guards. Terra moved with a grace and precision that was almost otherworldly, her every strike calculated and deadly. As the fight raged on, Yarek caught a glimpse of Corax moving toward the core, his hand outstretched toward the glowing crystals that powered the Spire. Terra, Yarek shouted. He's going for the Nexus. Terra turned, her eyes widening in alarm. She sprinted toward Corax, her movements a blur as she intercepted him just as he reached the core. You're too late, Corax sneered, his hand closing around one of the crystals. Terra's eyes blazed with determination. No, I'm not. With a swift, fluid motion, she activated the device she had been carrying, its golden light flaring to life. The Spire shuddered, the air filling with a low, resonant hum as the Nexus began to awaken. Corax's expression turned to one of shock and fury. What have you done? Terra met his gaze, her voice steady. I've ensured that the Nexus will never be yours. The Spire began to collapse around them, the ancient structure unable to contain the power of the awakening Nexus. Yarek grabbed Terra's arm, pulling her toward the exit. We need to go, he shouted. Terra hesitated, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. You go. I have to stay. The Nexus, it's too dangerous to leave unguarded. Jarek's heart sank. Tara, no. Go, she insisted, her voice firm. I'll hold Korax off. You have to get out of here. Yarek wanted to argue, to stay and fight by her side, but he knew she was right. The Nexus was too powerful, too dangerous to leave in Korax's hands. With a heavy heart, he turned and ran, his team close behind as the spire crumbled around them. As they emerged into the open air, the spire collapsed in a blinding explosion of light and energy. Yarek shielded his eyes, his heart aching as he realized what Tara had done. She had sacrificed herself to stop Korax and protect the Nexus. The journey back to the colony was anything but smooth. The terrain was unforgiving, and the air grew colder as the twin suns of Epsilon 9 dipped below the horizon. Yarek kept a close eye on Tara, who moved with a quiet determination despite her injuries. Her presence was both intriguing and unsettling. She was unlike any alien he had encountered before, her movements were fluid, almost otherworldly, and her eyes held a depth of knowledge that made him wonder just how much she wasn't telling him. How did you end up here? Yarek asked as they navigated a narrow ridge. Tara glanced at him, her expression unreadable. I was trying to escape. Korax's forces have been hunting me for cycles. I thought I could lose them in the outer rim, but they found me. I had no choice but to crash here. And this device you're carrying, Yarek pressed, what makes it so important? Tara hesitated, her fingers brushing against the crystalline object hidden in her garment. It's a key, she said finally. To an ancient technology that predates both our species. Korax believes it will give him the power to conquer the galaxy. But if it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy everything. Yarek frowned. And you think we can stop him? I don't know, Tara admitted. But I know I can't do it alone. Before Yarek could respond, the comms unit on his wrist crackled to life. Commander, we've got a problem, came Lieutenant Myra's voice, tense and urgent. A fleet of unidentified ships just entered the system. They're heading straight for the colony. Jarek's heart sank. How many? At least a dozen, Mira replied. And they're heavily armed. Yarek exchanged a glance with Tara. It's Korax, she said quietly. He's found me. We need to move, Yarek said, his voice firm. If they reach the colony before we do, we're all dead. They quickened their pace, the weight of the situation pressing down on them. By the time they reached the colony, the sky was alive with the faint glow of approaching ships. The colony's defenses were already on high alert, the hum of energy shields filling the air. Get her to the med bay, Yarek ordered as they entered the central hub. I need to coordinate our defenses. Tara shook her head. I can help. I know how Korax operates. I can give you an advantage. Yarek hesitated, then nodded. All right. As they made their way to the command center, Yarek couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. The colony was ill-equipped to handle a full-scale assault, and the arrival of Korax's fleet was a grim reminder of just how outmatched they were. Status report, Yarek barked as he entered the command center. Mira turned to him, her face pale. The fleet is closing in fast. They'll be within firing range in less than 10 minutes. Our shields won't hold for long. Yarek clenched his jaw. Evacuate the non-essential personnel. Prepare for an emergency jump. Where to? Mira asked. Yarek glanced at Tara. Any ideas? Tara stepped forward, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the system. There's a hidden outpost in the asteroid belt. It's old, but it's defensible. If we can reach it, we might be able to buy some time. Do it, Yarek said. Mira, coordinate the evacuation. I'll handle the defenses. As the colony scrambled to prepare for the impending attack, Yarek turned to Tara. You're sure about this outpost? Tara nodded. It's a relic from the last Great War. Korax won't know to look for us there. Yarrick exhaled slowly. All right. Let's hope you're right. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. The colony's evacuation ships launched just as Korax's fleet entered firing range. The first volley of plasma fire lit up the sky, the impact shaking the ground beneath their feet. Shields at 60%, Mira reported, her voice tight with tension. Hold the line, Yarrick ordered. We just need a few more minutes. Tara stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the holographic display. They're targeting the shield generators, she said suddenly. If they take them out, we're finished. Yarrick cursed under his breath. Mira, redirect power to the generators. We can't let them fall. The battle raged on, each passing second bringing them closer to disaster. The colony's defenses were holding, but barely. Yarrick could feel the weight of every decision, every life depending on him. Shields at 20%, Mira called out. We can't take much more of this. Prepare for the jump, Yarrick ordered. On my mark. Tara placed a hand on his arm. Wait. There's something you should know. Yarrick turned to her, his patience wearing thin. What is it? The device, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It's not just a key. It's a weapon. If Korax gets his hands on it, he'll use it to destroy anyone who stands in his way. Jarek's eyes narrowed. And you're just telling me this now? I didn't have a choice, Tara said, her voice pleading. I needed to know I could trust you. Yarrick exhaled sharply. We'll deal with that later. Right now, we need to survive. The command center shook violently as another volley of plasma fire struck the shields. Shields failing, Mira shouted. We made it, Mira said, her voice filled with relief. Yarrick didn't share her optimism. They had escaped, but Korax's fleet was still out there. And now, they were trapped in an old, barely functional outpost with a device that could either save or doom them all. What now? Mira asked, breaking the silence. Yarrick glanced at Tara. Now, he said, we figure out how to fight back.